All righty, Rudy. We are live with another episode of CAV
Yeah.
HQ. I am your host, CAV Boss, faithful companion James. How are you tonight, James?
I'm punching the microphone. I'm
You're
doing
punching
great.
the microphone.
Feeling good.
Doop,
Yeah,
three.
I punched the camera on Monday too. I'm just a punchy
Is
person
that what it
this
is?
week.
I moved my
Yep.
microphone down so I maybe don't cut out as bad when I keep moving my head around. So that's the reason everybody gets to see it on the screen. I haven't adjusted it yet to where it's not on the screen.
Nothing wrong with
I
that.
know. It seems like everything. And hello, Mayor Dude. How are you tonight?
There he is, Mr. Mayor Dude. Still waiting on his airbrush, I think. Or did we get it by any chance, Mr. Mayor Dude?
Which one did he get? Or did he order? Did he
I
do a
I
Vex or did he
think he
get
said
some?
he was gonna get a Posh, I
Yeah,
think. But to be honest with you, I have a bad memory, so I could be misremembering
yeah.
everything.
They're not a bad
Yep.
airbrush.
Still waiting, he
Still
says.
waiting.
I think his wife is a pretty solid airbrush person, and so she's giving him lots of good
Right.
advice.
Yeah. No, they. I mean, an airbrush is an airbrush for the most part. I mean, it's just a
Truth.
matter of
Mhm.
how easy they are to take care of and clean up and
Yep.
stuff like and control. But once you learn how to, I mean, when I was a kid, I airbrushed with the they used to be Aztec, and they were
I know exactly what you
yeah,
mean.
and then testers bought them, and then testers used them with the screw on heads, and with the compressed air can.
Yep. I've got one up there on my
I've
shelf
got one
from
laying
ages
around here
ago.
somewhere.
Schmitty and Gimli, how you doing?
Hello, hello, hello. But I think everything I've got now is that I use are Iwatas or Badger. So I've got a Vex, kind of a Badger.
It's a badger.
It's a
It's
Badger.
exactly
It's a
what it is.
Badger.
Yeah. Mayor Dude said he got a chance to tinker with his wife's Posh airbrush in the garage, so that's exciting.
They are
You should
an
definitely.
all new tool. They are
They
really
are.
cool to use.
Mayor Dude, when you finally get a chance, you should just primer stuff for a while. Just take your time and kind of learn how it works by primering all the models. Primer the cat, whatever you happen to have at hand.
Another good thing too is to use there at the beginning is when you're kind of learning control is to use like inks
Hmm.
and just get you a square and practice different things because the inks are generally you don't have to worry about thinning them or anything, so you're not fighting that. Am I doing this right or you
Yep.
know? So that
One step at a time.
yeah, that whole mixing thing is can be a bear. And there's so many freaking videos on YouTube from the good guys. Don't
Hmm.
necessarily look for the 50-year-old, 60-year-old guys that are doing models and model railroads. Those guys will teach you more about airbrushing and how to use them and tricks than anything you'll ever.
They know a lot.
They have figured out things that would the big airbrush guys are like, what the hell? Really? You can do
Mhm.
that?
Looks like Schmitty is painting me a Christmas gift. I had no idea. Thanks. I really appreciate it.
I Christmas just kind of came and gone for us. It was last I'm last year was such a weird year, just
It was.
holiday wise and everything.
I
Uh,
had so much time off at Christmas, I forgot what it was like to work. It was ridiculous. I loved it.
well, we have I mean, we're stuck at the house. We're not doing anything, going anywhere.
Hmm.
Just catching up on projects.
Yep.
Things to work
I
on.
I love hanging out with my wife. She and I are best friends, and we took up disc golf and had a fantastic time. We're a bunch of old people out there chasing frisbees into the pond, but we're having a good time.
we have a course here that they set up, yeah, just down the road from the shop here.
Well, I'll bring my discs next time. We
Yeah,
can go play.
I'll have to see what the whole deal is. I don't remember if they set one up out at the golf course too or not. We had right next to where the shop is, there used to be an American Legion golf course. It was a 9-hole course, and they ended up closing it down, and they sold some of the property and they built some apartments and stuff on it. But I think there's a section in the stadium. They built the football stadium on it, but there's a big section of it back to the north that they never have done anything with, and I think that's where they set it up. I think that there's some kind of
Yeah, definitely bring my discs the next time I come up.
Hey, CAV boss, did you happen to see that dumb fake 1980s CAV movie trailer? I did not. I did
We're on
not.
Discord.
Well, that could be it. I haven't checked Discord for. I will put that on my list of things to do. All right. So what do we want to talk about today? We have gone back and forth all day trying to come up with a topic for tonight. I don't know if it just we're zoned out or couldn't come up with anything good. So we're kind of doing an open mic thing tonight. So if you've got a question or you want something for us to talk about, please go ahead and ask. It's an audio ripoff of VHS Heavy Quote.
I mean, that should literally be the name of the show, Open Mic Night.
Open mic night. Yeah.
Yeah, that should be it.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's just kind of weird. We've got so much stuff going on here. We're still getting ready for our dual cast. Our system hasn't come in yet. As usual, everybody's schedule is different than mine, even after they tell me something. I don't know why that happens. We actually, the big Starhawk, we were discussing about that earlier. We have everything ready for it. We're looking at I'm talking to somebody else about doing the casting, some casts on it. It's not anything other than just trying to find somebody that can be more of a priority.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at some point in time, John, you've got to spread your workload out, or it's just going to keep piling up deeper. You're never going to finish anything.
I know. Well, it's just like I said, we use Trenchworks to do the Dictator, and they've done some stuff for us for the last Kickstarter and everything like that. But they've got so many projects there going on and stuff like that, and it's what generally happens when you deal with companies that have more work than they really want to do. Their prices go way up.
Yeah, that's their way of saying
yeah,
no.
that I really don't want to do it, but if you'll pay this, I'll do it. So that's part of it too. We're just trying to find a better way to do it or whatever.
I predicted it. Look at what Schmitty
Yeah,
wrote.
I mean, but as far as we've got the Starhawk, we've got the broadsword. It's ready to go. It's just it gets put off. You come up and you get here in the morning and you look at the stuff that's got to be done, and by the time you finally get to that part of the list, it's 8 o'clock at night, and you're so tired. You're like, oh, okay, we'll move it till tomorrow, and it just keeps getting moved. What's the plan with the CAV RPG game? Right now, Smitty, it's just something that we're talking about. We're bouncing ideas off of each other and ways to do it. It's to me, I'm trying to think of really the format how I want it to set up, because I've looked, over the years, I've read and paid attention to, Mech Warrior and Mechton. I mean, there are all these different RPGs that have been done out there with mechs as their deal, the Robotech and everything like that. And it's it's hard to try to figure out, because hey, it's a mech game, so it needs to be about mechs. But by the same token, I don't know that there's a lot of uh, success there in my mind for to do an RPG that's more mech. So that's part of it too. Is if we're gonna do, are we gonna do one? What percentage of that is going to be mech involved? And to me, I think for to be a successful RPG, it needs to be not very much. So, and that may be a killer. That may be, oh, I want to play it because I want to be, this CAV or this whatever. Um,
Hmm.
I think one of the games that did pretty good with RPG with the way that it was set up was Heavy Gear. Um, they did a big their RPG. I don't know that they support it anymore, but they had it was obviously there were some times with the gears that you had to spend some time, but it really wasn't the focus of that. There was so much more of the politics, and stuff like there. So there's that part of it, and coming up with classes, and it's just a lot to do, and there's so many other things that
Hmm.
have more priority right now. So it's just something that we keep talking about. Um, we are going to be releasing a larger scale, 28, 32 millimeter scale line of figures. Riffs, yeah, Riffs was one I was thinking of earlier. Um, that we are going to release under our Rogue Legion um, name. When
Hmm.
Rogue Legion was originally put together, that was supposed to be a generic line of figures. So that's kind of where the name came from. So we kind of thinking around, we're like, well, we're going to do this generic sort of sci-fi figure line. What are we going to call it? And I just said, hey, let's go back and use Rogue Legion for what it was originally supposed to be. So Rogue Legion is going to get a revamp. Um, the the older metal figures, mech figures that are part of that line. Um, once they're sold out, we are not going to do them anymore at this point. We don't sell enough of them that it is that big a priority, and it's we just don't do a lot of metal anymore. So if you are dying to have one of those figures in metal, I can't tell you 100% when it'll be done for. Right now, we're just going to sell through what we've got, and then if something happens quicker, then the rest will go into the pot. If not, then we'll just discontinue it and revamp it for the new line of sci-fi figures. And it'll be and like I said, it'll be a lot of CAV related type of stuff, but a lot of other generic type of um, infantry and repair guys and stuff like that you could use in StarCraft or Starfinder, things like that. So that's kind of where we're at on the RPG side of things. Just it's not a priority, and there's just still so much to even try to figure out as to what it wants to be, and I just don't have the extra brain uh, to spread out for that. Because if right now anything that new that comes up on my list causes something old to fall to the side, and
You've
there's
reached
right, and
capacity.
there's so many old things that are still trying to get done that I need to be part of. So unless I happen to hit the lottery in the next couple of months, that's probably going to be a 2022 project. So um, we have still been kind of bouncing around virtual CavCon. We're trying to figure out the best way to do some things. We want to have people to be a little more interactivity to it. We don't want everybody just to sit around and listen to us talk for 3 days. So I kind of putting a list together. I did kind of think about when we were talking earlier before we got on here, Jim, maybe do like a meet and greet Thursday night.
Mhm.
Um, that could be something that we can kind of kick off and kind of lay out the what's going to happen and just spend an hour or two Thursday night, get everybody used to us going, and then hit the ground running Friday morning, go through Sunday. So,
But you're still talking about a virtual meet and greet, right?
well, yeah, for as far as
Okay,
yeah,
good.
for people to come on and come up with something that we can do as part of
Sure.
that, where people can have a little more participation to it.
I know. We we can all virtually eat pizza
We
together.
could we tell
These
everybody to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually, I that's funny that you say that because when I was talking, thinking about it, is telling everybody to order pizza and finding
Mhm.
like a movie that's
Yep.
everybody has access to and tell everybody to hit the play button at the same time. And that way we can all watch the same movie and eat pizza at the same time and talk. It'd be funny to
Well,
kind of do a spoof or
nowadays,
something.
services like Disney Plus and other places have these watch together programs where you can literally become friends in their app
Right.
and then create a watch party, and the app will start the movie up at the same time for you.
Uh,
It's kind of out there
I
already.
thought so. Yeah. And yeah, yeah, Pacific Rim or something. Actually, the one that I was thinking of course, it's not really mech based or whatever, is Flash Gordon. Um,
Oh, that's a good old one.
well, because I have the lines memorized to that, so I can go with it as it goes along. And it I had a friend that I went to school with. He loved to watch that movie, and we would sit down and watch it. And
Mhm.
about 15 minutes in, he was ready to kill me with it because he's like, quit doing it, because I'm doing all the different voices and,
Yeah,
doing all the
yeah.
thing and making fun of it. And oh, it used to drive me crazy. Trey
My
Alford. I
favorite
haven't seen him for a
my
long, long time.
my favorite line from that movie is, "What do you mean, Flash Gordon approaching?"
Yeah,
I love that
it
movie. That movie
is.
is
I love it.
fantastic. It has,
The Cletus doing the intro, before it goes into the
mhm,
song. That part, that's a section I always thought that was
Brian Brethid is, the guy that plays, he plays in that movie, he plays the King of the Hawkmen.
right.
Um, I know him from Blackadder, which is a fantastic old comedy series from Great Britain starring Rowan Atkinson. If you have not seen Blackadder, you are missing out. You need to watch it. I will loan you my DVDs.
I am amazed how I always thought that a lot more people had watched that than did, and I say that to people all the time. I was like, you got to see
Oh my god, it's so
you
good.
will roll. I said it's hysterical, and the way that it jumps through the different genres,
Yep.
and
Mhm.
people are like, really, what is that? What? And I'm like,
What is
oh,
that?
you got to go find this. It's just
You gotta get it.
Big Trouble in
I have
Little
a
China.
cunning
That's another
plan.
one that I know a lot.
Yep.
Me and my wife watch that one quite a bit.
That sounds good. Just have a watch party the night before and, kinda hang out on Twitch and chat with people
Right.
and, watch the party and eat pizza.
So that's something that we could look at and um, ways about doing it.
Mhm.
But it's just trying to again. We were just talking about that before we went live. We're like, oh, we're basically if we're going to do it the last weekend of March, it's 2.5 months away. Are we going to be able to get everything ready and set up? And so, Kelly's Heroes is a good movie. I like Kelly's Heroes. Uh, Bridge Too Far is one that I
Mhm.
really get in that I really like to. Or
Mhm.
the longest day. The longest day.
This isn't the best World War II movie, but I like
Yeah.
U-571, and here's why. I have a really powerful stereo system, and the subwoofer will knock the pictures off the wall during the depth charge scenes, and my wife just looks at me like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like,
Yes.
"I'm just a boy. I'm just a little boy playing with his toys. Leave me alone."
Yeah. And it's funny how different things that work or whatever. I actually the other night I came in late and my daughter and my wife had just started a movie and I didn't remember the movie. It's I maybe I guess I must have not never saw it or whatever. But it was an older movie, but it was Drew Barrymore,
Mhm.
and basically it was kind of a real version of Cinderella, um,
Hmm.
where she was
Familiar with that.
in France with the and supposedly the story started with, here talking to these two characters that were the brothers Grimm, was talking to this lady, and she's
Hmm.
like, well, yeah, that's the story, but let me tell you what the real story is, what it's really based on. And I forget what it was called, but it was actually a really good movie. So, I mean,
Hmm.
that's way off from what we were talking about, but it was, if you if you get a chance, I can't for the life of me think of what the name of it. Something
Cthulhu looks like he's got it. Ever after?
Ever After. Yes, that's it. Yeah,
Leave it to Mr. Cthulhu to
but
come in for the win.
yeah, and it was very good. I enjoyed it. It was a good movie.
Yep.
So, trying to think
A ton of good
what
movies.
else I've been watching.
John Wick.
Yeah, John Wick movies.
Yep.
Um,
The first Matrix.
the other two Matrixes had their parts. The story just kind of went.
I I so here's my deal. All right. A lot of people complain about the quality of movies. I'm like, I just love being there for the movie. Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah.
I've seen it, I don't know, 3 times now. It's not a fantastic movie, but it's
No,
not bad. I love
I
it.
think
Put the characters on the screen. Let me watch
I think
them.
for watching it, it was great. I do agree. The story was absolutely, even for comic book stories. I'm like, we're going to do this. No, we're going to do that. No, we're going to do this. Okay, let's do this. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It is what it
I
is.
am looking forward to Zack Snyder's redo of
Yeah.
Justice League. I think that's going to
I'm
be.
I'm excited for that too. And personally, I think the Wonder Woman 1984 movie was perfectly fine. It was a nice B for me. I mean, wasn't a fantastic movie, wasn't a piece of poop. I liked it. Visually, it was
Right.
fantastic. I
That's what
think,
I'm saying. From the visual and all the stuff that they did,
yeah,
and I'd watch it again. So I mean, to me,
yeah,
that's always my seal of approval. Will I watch it a second time? If I won't watch it a second time, um, you know that you're in trouble. I know that,
yeah.
and a good is the last trilogy of Star Wars that
Mhm.
is not allowed to be played in our house.
I
So
saw them all.
yeah,
I'm sure I'll watch them again at some point, but I need some
yeah, no, I told them right off the bat. I said, I come in and you guys are watching that movie. I'm kicking my foot through the screen. God, I hate those movies.
No, 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 no. Don't do that, John. Your
I
your screen is too nice for that.
I know.
Just unplug it.
Yeah. Well, but
Absolutely.
I want to get their attention. I want them to
Yes.
know how serious I am.
Oh,
But yeah, no, it was good. I finally watched Teen Titans on HBO Max. That wasn't bad.
the
I enjoyed the
yeah,
live
the
version.
the the series.
Yes,
Yeah, I so again, I first of all, caveat emptor, I'm a big DC guy. My
right,
opinion is not worth the ink it's written with,
right,
all right? So I'm gonna tell you I love everything DC. I thought it was really good.
yeah,
I mean, again, it's kind of a teen, I don't know, soap opera, but
yeah.
I liked the way it looked. Visually, it was great. I thought some of the actors did a really good job. I love the subject matter. Teen Titans are one of my favorite comics of all time.
Well,
I'm happy.
and that's really I am too. I mean, I'm much more of a DC guy from the past because that's what I grew up with. Is in my time it was everything was DC. Marvel was very little did I ever see any
Mhm.
Marvel stuff. So um, the good thing that I like, and that's the reason kind of with the Zack Snyder thing is I've always kind of felt like the DC movies. I like them to be the more serious, kind of
Yeah.
dark side of the things, whereas
Mhm.
and let the Marvel movies be the more with the jokes,
Comedy.
yeah, the comedy
Yeah.
and everything. But no, I watched Doom Patrol and that because that was a big one that I grew up with, and
Mhm.
Teen Titans, and so I was enjoyed those. Those are good. That's the only two things I really watched.
So first of all, to Ilmarin in the chat, I'm generally a very happy guy. I like most of the stuff that I interact with. I always try and find something good in everything, if
That is true.
possible.
You are one of the most happy-go-lucky guys I have ever known. You are always a glass half full guy. So
I look at it like this: it's my duty to try and make the people I interact with feel better about themselves after they interact with me. That's my goal.
well, you do well with me. I always feel like after I'm done talking to
Yeah.
James, I'm like,
All right,
oh, the world
Smitty,
is better.
drive. You get in your car and drive down from whatever neck of Oklahoma woods you're in. I'll meet you outside, and we'll have this out right now. Teen Titans are better than the New Mutants. Come on, man. They're both good. Don't get me wrong. Like them both, but whatever.
So, and
All right.
speaking of movies though and stuff like that, Cthulhu, was that you that I saw that put up that got in the Altered Carbon RPG? Was that
Is
you
it
or
that
was that your brother?
or his brother?
Yeah,
I'm not
I
sure.
can't remember which one put it up. But if it was you, hopefully I thought about getting it because I was really your brother. I was really disappointed that Netflix canceled that series.
Yeah.
There was so much more it had done. It was cool just from the you could keep doing a different guy every year, if you want to every season. I
That
like
altered
stuff like
that Altered Carbon series was the first time I ever, what is the word, the word for just watching an entire Netflix series in a row without taking a break? What's the word for that? Binge.
binge
That's
watching.
the first thing I ever binged on Netflix. I turned it on thinking, I kind of like Cyberpunk. This might be okay.
Yeah,
3 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so good.
I loved
I
Cyberpunk.
love that.
We played the hell out of the original Cyberpunk. I have not read the books because I did not. I never read them, and I watched the show, and I liked the show. I didn't want to read the books because normally when I read the books, I'm like, "Oh crap, the show really wasn't as good as I thought it was going to." Be.
Yeah,
So
seriously.
yeah,
That's kind of my fear with that too.
yeah. So because that got me on Game of Thrones. I'd never had heard of Game of Thrones, the original books or anything like that, and then HBO came out with the series, and we were about halfway through the season. I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool. I like that. So I'm gonna get the books. So I got the books, and I was done with them by the time they got to the end of the season. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, why did I read the book? Yeah,
I mean, the two are separate, right? You just have to be willing to accept that, they're just different things.
yeah,
Like that whole mess that they did with The Hobbit, right? The
right,
3 movie Hobbit. I'm okay with that. It's just another telling of the tale. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't The Hobbit. I'm okay with that.
right.
Some people were not. Some people were much unhappier.
Well, but it was close enough, and it was big enough that they could cover a lot of the parts of it. I mean, he added obviously a lot of parts to it, but it was okay. I mean, I liked it. It was the ones that I hate are when they do a movie and they out of the 15 things from the books they touch one of them or something. Um, Smitty's
We
gonna
got Gimli
read Dune.
fired up.
I
Good Lord.
I Dune is such a weird book that you can get away with the movie and like either one of them because um, when they did the original Dune movie that they did, they actually did a pretty decent job staying with the book or whatever. The hardest part about Dune, and it'll be interesting to see how they do it, is so much of Dune is him talking to himself in his head, and that's hard to do. Um, the book that I'm looking forward to reading, I actually got it last night and I downloaded it, and I just because um, David Webb, the guy that he's written a bunch of Honor Harrington and a bunch of other books that I really like. He's got a new series out that is, and I have no idea. It was just I read the little blurb, that it popped up on my new list or whatever. I read the little blurb, and it's aliens have invaded Earth and we're to the point of almost being dead, but apparently there are vampires, and they come down from the Eastern Europe and show that they're real and help us fight
Yeah.
the aliens. I'm like, I
That
could,
sounds
how can you
fun.
go wrong with modern soldiers and vampires with
Yeah,
versus aliens? So
that's great.
yeah, so I
Send
got
me the
that.
title to that. I wanna grab that. That's on Audible?
I I'm sure it is. I got the download one. It's like Into the Dark, I think.
Into the Dark.
Is the
Hold on.
first one, the this
Pause the stream.
Out of
I'm
the
gonna go
Dark.
get
Yeah,
this.
Cthulhu says Out of the Dark. It's Out of the Dark,
Out
Into
of the
the
Dark.
Dark, something like that. Yeah.
How does Cthulhu consume all this content? It's crazy.
I don't know. I don't know.
Out of the Dark by David Webb, you said?
David Webb. Yeah,
Is it the first one?
well, and also, yeah, that's the first one because the second one, that's how I found it. The second one is what I got the notification on. So I went and read the blurb on the first one and decided to go ahead and get it. Rick Kennedy is also
Mhm.
helping him write that, and Rick Kennedy is the guy behind the
Bought it.
the Cavaliers. Remember
Yeah.
that you turned me on
Yep.
to all those books? That's that
Yep.
Rick Kennedy's helping him on. So yes, I have read all the Safehold series books. He needs it. We need to get a new one. I don't know if he's going to do another one. I think there's another. We need to. Hopefully, he's going to do some more. Those are so. Those are some serious books because I bought the first 3 or 4 hardcovers, and they're like, those are some. That's one of the things way back that's got me to start getting got my first Kindle. It's because I read at night, so I'm laying there in bed and I
Mhm.
had this 50-pound book, and I'm trying to. Oh my God, my arms are killing me. Hey, let's get a Kindle. So
So, currently I'm reading a series by Brandon Sanderson called The Stormlight Archive. A friend of mine, one of the Team Covenant guys, recommended it to me. It's a big, gigantic, epic fantasy thing, but it's not traditional fantasy. There's no dwarves, there's no elves, nothing like that.
right,
Um, and it's fantastic. I mean, it took a little while to get going, but it's really good. And the books are gigantic. They're like 45-hour reads. It's I'm loving it.
I uh, I I I ended up reading a whole bunch of old series because I hate getting a book that comes out on a brand new series and they
Yep,
don't come out with another one for a year or whatever, and I'm like, I
yep.
just have forgotten about it, and when I see one that I like, oh, there's like 10 books for this already, because I can
Mhm.
absolutely destroy books. I can read a
Yep.
500-page book in 2 or 3 nights. It just
Wow.
drives my wife crazy. She's like, how do you read that and actually retain all that? And I said, it's the way I read. I just can just
Yep.
burn through them. So
See what, Terry Pratchett. I'm sure that God, everybody here knows who Terry Pratchett is. If you haven't read his stuff, you need to go read it right now. Turn the stream off.
I'm
Go.
halfway through The Stand right now. I'm assuming the book and not the new CBS series, because again, the book is 50 times, and they can have a good series. The Stand series they did the first time was a good series,
Mhm.
but there's so much stuff that goes on that they can't never capture in a movie that the book gets. So
Mm.
you'll enjoy it.
Enjoy them both. I
Yeah,
mean, there's nothing wrong
yeah.
with that.
Well, like I said, I enjoyed the first series too, but like, there's just so much more that goes on in the book that that they can't get into in the deal. You'll enjoy it. That was. I'm not a big Stephen King guy. I like a lot more of the movies than some of his books because he's got kind of a weird way,
Mhm.
especially early on. He's got a really weird way of writing that didn't really rock my world. Um, but I've enjoyed the movie. But Stand, I did read the Stand, and
Cool. I've been watching, an Amazon Prime series, based on a set of novels by Terry Pratchett called The Watch. It's getting a lot of iffy reviews from people that love Pratchett's version of the story, but my wife and I are enjoying it. It's 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 definitely like at 90 degrees to the original story that Pratchett
right,
wrote, but I'm enjoying it. It's clever and interesting and again visually very fun and it's just comedic. It's got British comedy like sprinkled
right.
over it to the point where it's almost too much. It's
And
great.
a
Love it.
series on Amazon Prime that I watched last year. Me and my wife just kind of stumbled over it, but it's called Upload. Yeah, you
Upload.
ought to watch it. It's a kind of a funny, quirky kind
Huh.
of series. It's got the guy that it's the brother, or no, not the brother. He's a cousin of the guy that plays um, Green Arrow in the series. What, Stephen Armell, or something like that.
Yeah,
It's his
yeah, yeah.
cousin or brother or something like that is in it.
Huh.
Whoever the guy that played the original the Firestorm in the Flash series or whatever, that's who it is.
You mean the CW Flash
Yes,
series?
yeah,
Yeah, okay. So the guy that played Firestorm back at the
right.
beginning?
Is
Okay,
in
yeah.
Upload. Um,
I can see
and he
that. Yeah.
also him and Steven did that Code 8 movie. Did you
Mm-hmm.
ever catch that?
Uh,
That is
not seen that.
a good movie to watch. It's on Netflix, I think, but it's called Code 8. Um, but that's a good one.
This this Friday, the first of the Disney Marvel Cinematic Universe TV or series comes out.
WandaVision.
WandaVision starts on
Yeah,
Friday with 2
sounds, and
episodes.
what I've read from it, it looks like it's pretty good. Going to be pretty good.
I, I think it's going to
It's
be
supposed
great.
to be setting up the next whole set of movies, I
Oh
think.
my gosh. It's Disney is so killing it with Marvel. I honestly wish they would buy DC just so they could give us the same
Right.
quality. Maybe not the same tone, but the same quality of DC stuff. I am so excited for all these DC series. I'm ecstatic. Ilmarin, I'm a very happy person. Tiger Wraith, hello.
Welcome to
Yeah,
the movie and book club
movie
of the
club.
week episode
That's
of
it.
CAV
That's
HQ.
what we're doing.
We have totally gone.
When John doesn't have a CAV subject, we just do
It's
movies, food,
yeah.
movies.
It's either that or spaceships, space combat.
We could do that. Can't believe that one night we talked all about CAV spaceships for the whole night.
We are. There is
Something
no
it
script
looks like
tonight,
this.
Tiger. This has been a was kind of a weird day. We couldn't really think of anything to come up with, and so can airborne units shoot NOE aircraft? Yes. You cannot. You are aircraft are not NOE to each other ever.
What about jump infantry while they're jumping? Come on,
No.
John.
So no. If the best thing to take out an NOE aircraft is just another aircraft.
So that's kind of where I was going. Ilmarin or jetpack. Isn't there
Uh,
an airborne thing?
they technically, I guess, could be, but it's actually the rule is states aircraft. So it's
Yeah.
it's not airborne. It goes by aircraft. Or a CAV vehicle with anti-air. Well, depended upon how
The
how it's
range.
set up and range.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
stuff that
Yep. I mean, during that War Master tournament, it was not that hard to outrange the Chiefs. Actually, kind of short range. You just take aircraft that have guided missiles and stand off and hammer the anti-aircraft guy when he comes forward. That was my plan, and it worked.
well, and that's the trick of. I mean, and that's just like modern anti-aircraft and stuff like that. Is you have to layer it.
Hmm.
Um, if you just put one out there, it's they're always gonna figure out a way to get around it. But the trick to good anti-aircraft is the same way that we do it in real deal is it's layered. You have this over this over this over this, so that anything that you try to go after one, there's another one that even though you may not be able, that one may not be able to get you, there's one that will get
Yeah.
you.
Sorry, Tiger. But yeah, actually, Tiger made a comment about me going off script. You don't understand. Behind the scenes, I'm the one urging us to have a script. John's like, whatever.
Hey,
We just
I was gonna
roll up
say,
in
Jane,
here.
10 o'clock this morning. Hey, what are we gonna talk about on the show? I don't know. I'll think about it. I'll get back with you. And then we talked about
Well,
it 30 minutes before we went live. All right, what are we
that's
gonna
it.
talk about? I don't know. I said
Pizza. We're going to talk
we're
about
gonna talk
pizza
about
toppings.
pizza. So
Uh,
we're doing our best that we can
Oh,
But you guys are slowly pulling us back on. So
yeah. Tiger Wraith isn't there an anti-aircraft tank now that has guided missiles? I can't think the Akula or it starts with an A. I can't think of what its name is.
there he is. There's a um,
A little guided missile tank. It's got like 3 or 4 lights or mediums or something.
well, it's an actual SAM deal. We haven't released the model yet. If there's any pictures of it, but I've actually got the file. Sparks
So
Murphy, Tom down in Australia
yeah,
did the model.
nice. Sparks did the Cossack, right?
Yes.
God, I love that model. Painted on that thing Monday. The wedge shape of it, the angularness, that comedically huge muzzle brake he put on it. It's just wonderful. Ilmarin and A. Rourke, they helped me decide how to paint it. I mean, they were basically it was sort of like charades or something. They were trying to no the other part,
the
put
other the
the
other
part
part.
over there. Yeah,
Well, and
they were trying.
part of the deal as we were building, as we have been building new vehicles and stuff like that, we've kind of overemphasized on the tanks. It's got big tank barrels or whatever,
Yeah,
so that they cast
God,
better and stay thicker.
don't don't take that as a criticism,
Yeah.
John.
No, I'm
The
not. I'm just
Cossack
saying that's
is
yeah.
beautiful.
It's once people, it looks weird on the picture, and then we print it out, and they're like, oh, it didn't look so bad anyway.
So Ilmarin wants to know what to paint next. So you're the one with the peacekeepers, Ilmarin, right? You have the yellow and orange peacekeeper models?
I don't think Tiger. I don't think we could be considered heroic. Well, I guess maybe. I had actually a big conversation came up on another scale modeling group or whatever that we got into an argument over scale, which is very easy to do. And of course, in their mind, 10 mil scale is weird, especially anytime that you do millimeter scales. Okay. So when you say 10 millimeter scale, it's really can be a lot of different things depending on what you use as your base. So, because when they say 10 millimeter scale, that's an infantry figure, and that is from the bottom of the foot until eye level or to the top of the head. You get everybody goes different ways. I've always gone from bottom of foot to eye level. So when we say that we are 10 millimeter, our infantry from the bottom of the feet to their eye level are 10 millimeter in size. Okay. Now, to convert that into a scale number, like a 1/12 or whatever like that, that's where you get screwy, because the original scale for wargaming and everything was based off of a 5'3" man. Okay, because that's 100 years ago, 80 years ago, or whatever. That was the average height of everybody. Well, the problem now in modern times, if you use a 5'3" as your number guy, it makes everybody look little. So
Mhm.
then you go to the next size. Well, what is the average height of a person now? Well, it's 5'9". So that right there can change 10 millimeter scale. Because if you use 10 millimeter at scale on a 5'3" guy, it works out to about 1 and 1/50th is about where it's at. Um, if you go to a 5'9" guy, it goes up. So now you're like 1 and 1/60th, one whatever like that. Um, so basically the way that we worked off of it is, and looking in the future and keeping everything like that, is we base ours off of a 6 foot tall guy, 72-inch tall guy. So based on how you scale out people and everything like that, our scale actually works out to like 1/176 or 1/77. I've got the deal or whatever. So we just made it 1 and 1/80th. Is That was close enough. When you're getting that big of a number, you'll never see the difference between a 1/77 and a 1/80th figure. So And there's a lot of people out there that consider 10 millimeters 1/180. There's a lot of people that think it's 1 and 1/60th. There's a lot of people that say it's 1 and 1/50th and 1 and 1/44th. So, but we use 1/180th as our scale. And that works out really good too, because that works out to 1 inch equals 15 feet. So if you're building terrain, if you're building whatever, it's a nice even number to try to build to. 15 feet's an easy number, because 3/4 of an inch works out to about 10 feet. So that's the way our elevation levels work, by 10 feet. So it's easy to build, and that's where we're going. So that's what you're going to watch into. Yeah, 1 and 200th aircraft end up working well, because like I said, we're 1 and 1/80th, and depending on how the older scales are set up, that's how it goes by. So, and that's where everything gets screwed up, because 15 millimeter scale is the accepted scale is 1/100th, but that's not what 15 millimeter would really be. It'd be like 1/120th, right in there or whatever. But everybody uses 1 and 100th. So 15 millimeter figures, as long as everybody's doing the same scale, 15 millimeter looks good. But 15 millimeter, that's the reason I put that picture up the other day. I forget who was talking, but it was the Despot. I've got that 15 millimeter Despot that I printed out, and you put it next to our 10 millimeter Despot, and it's nearly almost double in size. But that's because we use 1/180th as our scale, and 1/100th is 15 millimeters. So you're pretty close to doubling it in size.
So John, when you make the decision to create a game like CAV back in the day, and you're picking a scale because there are outside factors, I'm sure. Back in the day, it was probably had something to do with BattleTech, but just forget that for a second. Do you look at the do you let existing products, terrain, hills, things like that, influence the scale that you go for? I mean, is there a reason why you need to conform to any particular scale? Couldn't you just say, I'm going to be 17 and 3/4
You
millimeter
could. I
scale
mean,
because that works?
yeah, if you scale everything yourself and you tell everybody else to screw off, then your scale will always be right, because you're the only thing that's going to work with it. When we originally sit down and started working on CAV 1, the decision was made to go with 12 millimeter scale, because that was 1/160th, which was in scale. And there was all this terrain in scale stuff that was out there. So we were like, that's why we're going to go with this. We wanted to go with a little different scale than what BattleTech was. And all this in scale stuff is out there. And that's what we're going to go with. The problem was, after the people that came afterwards, there was 2 or 3 of them that had their own versions of scale. That's the reason why there's all these different scales of the metal figures that were done. I think the Rhino, I think there ended up being 3 or 4 different Rhinos put out, because of the size and everything. And then there's, if you go back and look in mail, there's small versions of aircraft and big versions, and and all that stuff. So scale got all screwed up. It just kind of went all off on the network. So when I took the game back, and we started talking about plastic and everything like that, and because of what we already had in metal miniatures, I decided to go with 10 millimeter, because one, what we had, a lot of the stuff was closer to 10 millimeter than it was 12 millimeter, with the size, the way that, because of the smaller parts. And also because we had a lot of crossover with BattleTech people. Well, BattleTech, of course, always has tried to say that it's 6 millimeter, okay, but it's really not. It's closer to 8 and 9 millimeters is where most of the stuff has been sculpted. I haven't looked at the new plastic, so I don't know if they're trying to fix it back to be true 6 millimeter or whatever. if BattleTech had really originally started out to be true 6mm and had been 6mm, I never would have played it. 6mm games are, unless you're playing Micro Armor, I
Hmm.
have no desire to play anything that small. Um,
Yeah.
so that was,
Napoleonics, maybe.
yeah. I mean, if you're playing, where you're needing big stuff like that or whatever. But I mean, I've seen guys play 2mm Civil War book games. I mean, and the little guys are nothing but they look like little twigs, and they just kind of paint
Yep.
the tops or whatever. But
Yep.
uh,
Static grass.
yeah,
Might as well paint
paint
static
paint
grass.
static grass because that's about the deal. I mean, that's the way uh, GHQ, used to do their 6mm, their micro armor infantry. If you look at them, they're all glued together. There's just the lines of these guys standing up in the deal. So that's why we went with 10mm. Is I wanted to do something different. The models would work. It would be closer to BattleTech, so that the BattleTech guys would do ever, and it would meet up with the figures. Now, in hindsight, had I realized that we were going to end up having to redo models and not really use or whatever like that, I probably would have gone with 15mm scale for CAV.
Man,
Yeah.
see, I would love that. So, all right, help me get that in my head. There are some tank games. Flames of War, is that 15
Yes.
millimeter? Okay, so Panzer would be like the size of your thumb, basically, the length of your thumb, kind of.
The
That's
no.
that's kind of the way I remember them. They were pretty good size, weren't they?
Well, I mean, I don't know where on the deal, but at 15mm scale, like I said, a Despot's going to be, it's like 4 inches long. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Big.
yeah. Team
Yeah.
Yankee is
Oh,
well.
that's right.
So had I known back at the time that of course, we were trying to originally stick with the original minis that we had, and we didn't know that we are going to end up having to reprint a bunch of stuff and everything like that. That's the reason we went ahead and I went with that scale because I was working with what we had. In retrospect, had I known we were going to be where we are now, I'd have started with 15mm. We would have
That would have been
a
nice.
lot bigger and cooler things. So,
Yeah.
but it is what it is.
Mhm.
So, but we work with but like I said, 10mm scale is a certainly acceptable scale. And one of the things that you'll, especially Flames of War and Team Yankee at 15mm,
Mhm.
especially if you're playing lots of tanks and everything like that, is your board quickly becomes a parking lot. So
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't
yeah,
like.
so you kind of go in that with 10mm. We still have a lot of room to maneuver. There's a lot of
Mhm.
maneuver that you can still get.
And see, to me, if you go up in scale, you have to come down in unit size. So instead of playing like a company of armor, you play like a squad or whatever the right word is, a platoon
Right,
of armor.
right.
So you've got like 4 tanks, maybe a support vehicle, a handful of infantry, and that's the game at
Right.
that
And
point.
and that's part of too. I mean, that's kind of a funny scale and a way to play with the way CAV is. I mean, because
Mhm,
CAV can be very deadly um, on models, and you go out there
mhm.
and play with the way the current rules are, and try to play 4 tanks on 4 tanks, and you get your of course
Yeah.
you're done in 30 minutes. All right, let's go get
Yeah,
a beer. We're ready.
play
Yeah,
again.
we'll play again or whatever. But so I
But I mean, when you shrink a game down like that, if you were to take, like a company size game, a 12v12 CAV game, and decide to rewrite the rules so that it worked for 4 models, then the complexity of the models goes up,
yes,
right? And so, the model now has more abilities to maybe resist the damage or repair itself or get out of the way. The complexity's got to go up so that it's it's literally like zooming in with a camera, right? Or
right.
a microscope, right? The smaller you zoom in, the more detail you have to give to keep the game about the same engagement level, I think.
Yeah. No, there is. Yeah, there's a whole lot of things that could be done. To this day, I think one of the purest set of rules that I ever played tank games was the original Centurion game. If you ever
Mm,
had a
mm,
chance to ever read that or play that, it's grav tanks in the future.
mm.
It was kind of a weird, FASA actually put it out with the
Oh, yeah.
Battletech guys.
With the teeny tiny little needle guns, right?
Yes, yeah. My
Yeah, okay.
the CNC miniatures is who did those, and they actually
Huh.
still really you can still get them. Um, but the guy that sculpted those figures, I don't know if he's still with him or whatever, but back when he was doing all the CNC things for their tanks and stuff, sculpted with the the plastic square tabs that used to come on bread, with the had the little pinch thing to close the loaf of bread. You know what I'm talking
The
about?
wire
No,
ties?
the squares,
The
the little plastic squares.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah, the little hook
right, with
double
the
hook
hole in
things,
it like
right?
that.
Yeah, okay.
That's what he
Yeah,
built
alright.
all those models out of. Is he would layer that plastic and cut it and do it and carve into it as he goes. So when you saw them, the master, and he would use whatever ones that he had. So you'd see all these little, yeah, kind of like a guitar pick. You'd see these layers. So you'd see like a red and a green and a yellow and whatever on the deal. But that's what he carved all that stuff out of. That
But
made that. He was very, very accurate. It was very, very cool.
I I actually have a bunch of their tanks over there just 6 feet to the left of me, minus the turrets, because the turrets all got, I mean, the guns broke
Yeah.
off. They were literally the size of
Yes.
needles.
Yeah. They are were very hard to take care of. But as a set of rules, I just love Centurion the way they did. So um, the
Hmm,
background of the game was kind of goofy and not, but I really enjoyed it. It would be probably if I was going to do a spaceship game, they did a Interceptor and Leviathan
hmm,
was two add-ons for ships and
yeah,
capital ships. Um, that would be something that would probably I would look at towards a spaceship game because I like the way that those were set up too. So
interesting.
yeah, but to me, CAV works for what it's supposed to. It's an enjoyable level. It's not designed for, um, I mean, it depends on how you want to play. I mean, if you want to play, if you got, of course, when I played when I was in my 20s or whatever, especially BattleTech, we played 8 and 10 hour games. We thought that was perfectly fine. And that's what we did.
Yeah,
And we'd start in the morning and play 4 or 5 hours, then have lunch and drink a couple of beers and come back and play another 4 or 5 hours and get a game
mhm,
done. And we'd play 36 on 30, battalion versus battalion, stuff like that. Because we had ways that we had to really speed up the game too, so that helped too. And so, if you want to play a 6 or an 8 hour day game, CAV will let you do that. I mean, you can play 40 or 50 models to a side, and if you've got people that are used to playing and know how to play and go with it, you can have those big battles and be done in an afternoon. Um, but by the same token, if you want to play a 12 on 12 game, you can get done in a couple hours too. And CAV does that well. I mean, there's always going to be times where people do this or stretch it out or go whatever like that. But for the most part, the game goes quick and speeds and does what it wants to do. Is it perfect? No, but there's never a perfect game. There's always something that's going to happen or whatever. So I'm okay with it. I think it's pretty much to where it needs to be now. And there'll be new stuff that we'll add to it, and come down to the road. We've got the
mhm.
that high velocity cannon, which is a new weapon system that we'll be down the road talking about and putting out. So anyway,
John, any thought to ever run like, boutique prints, like, let people order a larger scale version, of one of your models, something 3D printed?
um, yeah, we've actually thought about it. I just that despot. I don't know how many people have asked me, hey, I want to get that 15 millimeter despot.
Mhm.
Um, So I don't know. It's something that we may down the road look at. We've talked about releasing some files to let people if they wanted to 3D print them themselves. I'm not. I guess it's the old school in me because I'm not a
Mhm.
big I'm not a big guy in releasing my books and stuff in PDF because you really don't have no
Yeah.
control over that once it's out there. Um, And that's kind of the way I'm about prints too. Is once that print is out there, you're you're counting on everybody to be safe to do what they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
I've been using CAV rules for all my 10 games. Actually, Cthulhu, we have talked, me and some other people, several times about doing a World War II or a modern armor version of CAV, where it's just able to be used for those type of games as kind of an alternate set of rules or something. So that's it. It's very with the way that it's set up with the damage tracks and the special abilities and everything like that. It's very easy to convert over into any other kind of game because you just make the special abilities go towards those kind of things. You come up if you want. Here's what a German tank was good for. You come up with a couple of special abilities that take into account what these tanks are better for. So that's something that we've talked about from time to time. All right. Well, we are at 9:01. We have managed to kill an hour, but we finished talking about CAV, which is good.
Took a while.
It took a while to get around there. So anyway, any last minute questions, comments that anybody wants to try to throw in? I know that I've once again started talking and ended up not taking a breath, but that's the way I do. So it comes from spending all day not talking to anybody. Like, oh my God, I get to visit with people. Since I get to live in BFE nowhere.
You got that right.
It is what it is. All right. I guess we've put everybody to sleep.
Well, time to summarize the schedule for the rest of the week.
Well, let's see. We are going to, we have Chris, who will be back Saturday. He is still working on the Mastodon. Technically, he's working on the Mammoth. It's supposed to be the Mastodon, and then the Mammoth is a variant, but it seems like he took off with the Mammoth or whatever. So I think that's what he's continuing on. I know that I'm going to try to get him in here tomorrow or Friday. I'm not super wild about the PBGs on the side of it, but I don't know. Well, hopefully, if he's on here, we need to talk. So.
Don't forget, a week from tomorrow, I believe, is the next episode of the Big Stompy Podcast.
The third Thursday of the month. So we are,
Thursdays.
So this would be, tomorrow is the second Thursday?
Yeah.
So next week is
the 21st, I believe.
So next week will be the next episode of Big Stompy Robots with James and Ross.
Big Stompy Podcast.
Sorry. I have
right,
there's those guys I've got that Facebook. That's what they go by. Throws me off.
That's
I get all confused.
So we have a tentative commitment from Mr. Todd Fahrenholtz to come back and help us out. Okay. So with luck, we'll have Ross and Todd on. Not sure what the topic is yet, but those two are worth listening to when it comes to CAV about anything. Painting, strategy, models.
Especially if they think ahead. If they have a topic, if they actually know what they need to talk about to stay on deal.
Give them some homework, and they're actually both pretty darn good.
On it. They do. Well, it's a lot easier when you only have to do one show. So anyway, and then Monday night, you'll be back painting. Tuesday night, more terrain, more of the desert board. Just more and more stuff going for that. If you caught the broadcast last night, I started working on the water features, the Oasis and the Plaza, which is going to go on there. I did end up redoing the Plaza today because I got a warp in it because I in a hurry and didn't seal it before I started putting glue water and stuff on it. So last night after I got off the show, I was telling James earlier about this. So I put a little moisture on the back of it, flipped it upside down, set it up on 4 cans on the corners and put a weight in the middle of it. Came in today and guess what? Warped the other way. So I've tried 2 or 3 times a day to try to even it out. It wasn't going to even out, and I had to do a couple of things on the machine anyway, so guess what? I just went ahead and got a new one and started over. But I did get the Oasis piece done. You saw that or whatever last night. So it turned out really good. Texture with the toilet paper water. So anyway, and then we'll be back again next Wednesday and we will have a topic. We will do much better next. No, I think this was a good show. I think we had a good show.
It was a great show. There was no
most
topic.
of it's talking. We talk. That's why you're all here. You just want to listen to me.
Yes.
Anyway, so I guess say good night, James.
Good night, James.
All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate your support. Again, anything you can all do, Facebook, YouTube, whatever. I'll make sure I check out your thing on Discord. And keep spreading the faith, brother. So, all right, I'll talk to you all later. Take care.